There we go. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 6 of spoiler season. I've got a very special guest who I totally did not forget to tell was going to be a solo guest tonight until about 5 minutes ago. I'll introduce Suzanne, or actually have Suzanne introduce herself a little bit more in a moment. Today we had the Eternal Balance update. I also want to do some schedule heads up. Tomorrow is going to be another sort of impromptu NSG special podcast. It's going to be me and Safer talking about the standard ban list update as well as the NSG development article. And then Friday, the stream is going to start about 45 minutes earlier than normal because the Neon Static folks are going to be doing a late night preview. And so we're going to cover the JNet spoiler and my spoiler during that episode instead. So that'll be at 7:15 Eastern rather than 8 p.m. Eastern. With that said, Suzanne, who apologies again for ambushing you, would you mind introducing yourself to the audience? Say a little bit about how you got into Netrunner and how you're involved with it these days.
Hey everyone. As Jeff said, I definitely didn't only find out about this that I would be the only one on Daily Cast today, but it's totally fine. I am always willing to talk about art, and if it's just me, then that means that nobody can stop me talking. But in all seriousness, I'm glad to be here and glad to talk about the art for Vantage Point because it was a slightly different process than how it was for some of our other sets. I have been in Netrunner technically for a long time. I got into it right about whenever, maybe 3 months before FFG dropped it. So I had just gotten my first revised course that I was like, oh, this game is so cool. And then at the shop, they said, yeah, and it's not going to be out anymore. I was like, what the heck? So that was something else. And then I just did a lot of kitchen table Netrunner, mostly with friends, and started actually going out and trying to meet people with the game after COVID, essentially, like after the COVID lockdowns. And then I am a part of the Null Signal Games visual team. I have been with the visual team for almost 3 years now. My 3-year NSG anniversary is coming up in March, so very soon.
That's wow. I mean, man, time flies. It really 3 years. Jeez.
It truly does.
Yeah, and you're also, I guess I'm gonna vamp a little bit. So you're based in Texas, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes.
Seems been
I
really
am.
growing down there, which has been very cool to see. But
It has. The more active metas are in Dallas and in Austin. But I'm based out of Houston. We're small but mighty. We're working on it, trying to
yeah,
bring
for sure.
more people into the game.
Yeah, so I guess for those unenlightened folks like myself, I guess up until I had you on last year, I'd love if you could describe a little bit about what your role kind of entails. I would say on a day to day. That's probably not quite the right time frame, but to use the common phrase, like a day to day kind of basis.
So up until very recently, actually, I was the art liaison for the visual team. So that meant that I was the main person in charge of managing the inbox. This involves all of the artist communication, whether that be reaching out to see if they're available for a set, sending briefs and templates for commissions, giving feedback. Every so often, we also will receive outreach from artists sending their portfolios, asking if we would be a good fit. So that was the main thing. I'm also in leadership for visual. I'm the second in charge person. And what that looks like currently is that I am the visual lead for the next set after Vantage Point.
Very
So
cool.
because I'm doing that, it means that I'm not. We have a new person who is going to be the art liaison.
Well, I'm glad you have some more help for art liaisoning. It also means I get to have an excuse to have you back next set at some point to talk about the art, because it's been fun every time so far. So, that's I'm glad I get to bug you about that. And I'm sure I think the goal today is we'll talk about the card, which I'll pull up in just a moment, and then we might talk about some of the art and your involvement and the thinking behind it. The team has gotten to put out 2 articles already, but I'm sure both myself and also chat, if you have questions about the art of the set, this is a great opportunity to talk to one of the people really responsible for organizing and creating the holistic vision. I think the episode you were on during elevation previews, I thought was one of my favorite episodes of that whole series. So I'm very glad to get you back, and definitely did not mean to trick you in the way I accidentally did this time. So that said, this
I know for sure that it would have been because of the art takes and not because of the fantastic ideas that I had about how playable cards were.
playability doesn't, no one gets it right. But today we did get 1 card in the Eternal Banlist article, and maybe I'll, Suzanne, I'm guessing you're not a big Eternal person, so I'll probably save us that discussion. I'll do that when I get some real Eternal heads on. But we did get a very fun-looking Anarch card. So we got Stick and Poke. He is a unique resource companion virtual. He's 0 to install, 3 influence out of Anarch. The first time each turn you encounter a piece of ice, it gains. Subroutine, do 1 net damage. The runner draws 1 card before its other subroutines for the remainder of that encounter. Excuse me. And then the flavor text is, in the net, it takes special effort not to sanitize your equipment, but they manage anyway. So I guess I might start,
I love these little guys. They're so adorable.
Yeah, they are quite the little pair. I'm really curious, what's the, I don't know how involved you were with Stick and Poke specifically. Is there a process where narrative comes and says, hey, we want 2 opossums getting virtual tattoos? Do you remember kind of what the process for this card looked like?
Yeah, I will say that ever since, I want to say it was the second release of Liberation, we were doing more collaboration with narrative whenever it comes to the concept part of a card. Originally, all of the brainstorming was exclusively on the narrative side. Narrative was kind enough to open visual up to their processes. So at that point, it was 1 visual person and 1 narrative person were in charge, kind of quote unquote in charge of a faction, and would collaborate to do, be the main people brainstorming for that faction. For a Vantage Point, it was open to everybody. It's come on in, water's great, let's try it out. So anybody in visual and narrative could talk about it. For this piece, there was something else that was different to the process, which was, it may have been part of narrative's process before and I hadn't known about it, but Dev was giving information every so often to say, oh, this card we are intending to be kind of for this person, or we think that it will be good in this identity. And earlier on, they had thought that this would be one that is good for Ryu, Phoenix, and that is the identity I think most people have been talking about using this card in so far, at least whenever it comes to standard.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea about Eternal. You got me right on that one. And so that was part of the process, was thinking of what kind of companion is something that Rio would vibe with.
Yeah, I was actually going to be one of my other questions about this. Like, oh, companions so far have had a very, I'm going to say, a different vibe, and like some of that is just different eras of NSG art. Like, Dague is from one era, and Paladin is from a whole, feels like a different era of NSG art and resources. And so obviously, like, there's some like, hey, we can just kind of get, I would say, we can do more detailed work with artists because of various factors. But it also feels like a very different kind of visual, I don't know, visual language is the term I want to use for digital for companions. But I don't know how much that was, like, if you feel like there's a something. What's my actual question here? Apologies.
No, it was definitely intentional. So in terms of companions, and this goes for any card actually, whenever a card has a certain subtype, we want the subtype to feel familiar across the factions, but then each faction has a particular flavor to it. And so the companions that are in Shaper and Criminal, like Dagon, Amelia, are going to be different than how Anarch feels. And then also the previous companions were all part of Hoshiko's suite. So, they all came out at the same time as her. Hoshiko has a particular style. She was using Keiko and like Paladin Poemu and Trickster Taka, and all of these companions are kind of like her fantasy companions, and so they fit archetypes of fantasy RPGs like the Paladin or like the Thief. But Stick and Poke are not part of that suite, so they don't have the little drip econ to play specific kinds of cards at the beginning like them. So that's one way that they're differentiated. They also don't work with Keiko because they don't give that drip economy. And then also, like whenever they just, again, are going more towards the vibe of what Phoenix likes. Phoenix is more countercultural, they appreciate, they see the beauty in things that other people find not beautiful, and are not trying to be beautiful. And yeah.
Yeah.
So no, it is, but a way that they are similar is that the older Anarch companions, although they all fit in the lines of fantasy tropes, in a way they are kind of doing a job, right? Like the thief for the protector. So was the thought process behind this. The job is tattooing.
That's very cool. Yeah, and I was also gonna be like, oh, there's also like Hoshiko is more of the like, magical girl, like anime kind of vibe. So it makes sense that the companions that she works with on the internet have that kind of clean and shinier side. And then we get to see a different side of Anarch in that more countercultural side, with Stick and Poke. So that's nice.
And Stick and Poke are also more classic Anarch looks. Like if you go back to some of the, like even in the older FFG days, like more of the punk appearance was present in Anarch. It hasn't been around as much. Yeah, exactly. Like for noise. It hasn't been around as much more recently, but that was part of the goal and for Rio and also for Stick and Poke to bring back some of that vibe.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a part of like, yeah, I feel like original printing, it's like Anarch has had a lot of different kind of visual styles, and I think going back, like at least referencing this kind of more punkish and yeah, that counterculture is a fun little vibe. So yeah, I think these are a neat little card. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time trying assess the viability or strength of this card. I do think it's probably worth shouting out Raindrops Cut Stone, which is one of my favorite like art pieces. It's a great Scott Uminga piece. Does interact with this, so we get two good pieces of art playing nice together, which is always fun to see. And like this does sort of, if your hand's not great, you basically get to draw an extra card off of Raindrops Cut Stone if you let that first subroutine fire, which is also obviously for people that are listening to this mostly visually or audio. I guess the reason that people keep bringing up Ryu is he says the first time a subroutine becomes the first time you turn the run becomes successful after a subroutine resolves during that run, gain a credit, and the corp trashes a card from HQ. So if you use Stick and Poke while we're on a central server as Ryu, you can run that server. You basically take a net damage, draw a card, then you're going to gain a credit, and the corp has to trash a card from HQ if you get Stick and Poke down. So you get this nice kind of stack, like little stack of value that also enables the Ryu trigger without having to be dependent on the corp having non-end the run ice subroutines that you can allow to fire, which is a nice little piece for Ryu after Banhar got banned. Definitely, again, I mean, Suzanne, you keep giving OP too many good arts for us to want to make playmats and full bleeds of, and so at some point you're gonna have to stop. But in the meantime, I appreciate all these great arts. So.
Oh yeah, and then the Raindrops Cut Stone promo has been revealed also.
Yes.
I saw people talking about how that was a repurposed Bankar piece. Excuse you, how dare? I'm joking.
how dare you make that
it looks
assumption? Great. Yeah. No, it.
How dare?
Yeah, I think is that the pack that also has an Into the Depths alt art? I'm trying to remember if that was one. No, it's not. Okay.
No. That's like the all Amarul one. It's that it's going to be that one and Foliop and the mat is Scrounge.
Oh yes. Okay. Yeah, you're right. That's the district kit. So hopefully some people probably have those arts in hand already, and other people will be getting more of them down the line. So that'll be cool. And we definitely this is the fun joy of having OP trying to work at the same time as SBT and people wanting powerful cards printed is that sometimes you get fun little things like cards that were definitely not a Banhar and was definitely always a Raindrops Cut Stone prompt. Actually, that one may have even been a Raindrops Cut Stone for most of its lifetime, but people can probably see a couple of those. Diogenes is asking, and I'm going to say, Suzanne, as your personal opinion, not as an NSG official stance, which one of these is Stick and which one is Poke?
Yes. I'm glad to finally clear this up. I will say that the possum is Stick and the opossum is Poke.
Okay, great. That's very helpful for everyone.
Hope that cleared it up.
So I guess like I actually I was trying to think of like, oh, I would love to ask, intelligent sounding questions. And I think I don't actually have a particularly intelligent sounding one, but I was very curious about and I'm pulling it into the stream and resizing it live. Conrad wrote a great article about the influence of noir and like one goal for art in the set is to get more noir, and I can probably pull up irregulars, which was talked about, but you mentioned like wanting to let those art, like there's more than just noir going on in this set, and to me the like Méliès no, I'm still saying that wrong. City Luxury line. Méliès City Luxury line. Thank you. Has like I want to call it, like my brain is like Art Deco, but this is not Art Deco. It's like the thing it reminds me of is like Metropolis or something like that. But I'm kind of curious what the inspirations were from your like person who actually knows about visual motifs and styles and things, kind of what the inspiration for this was.
Yeah, so I first of all want to agree that Conrad wrote a really great piece on the influence of noir in the set. I will say that most of the noir influences are in the criminal faction. Criminal, of all of the factions in Netrunner, is really the one that fits the essence of noir, just in terms of their attitudes about the world, and how they view things. So that is mostly wherever it's going to be. It wasn't something that was for the full set. For this one, the train piece, we hadn't given a specific direction in terms of like art style for the train. The brief had mentioned like those expensive cars that'll have like a figurehead at the front of the car. So it was supposed to be something that's like that, wherever it's like, oh yes, this is classy, but also feels a little bit silly whenever it's on the train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
That's
cool.
it was less about that and about the noir influence and more about just luxury cars.
Well, that's very cool. I mean, honestly, even though that's not the thing I was expecting, like I don't know, it's also like, I think it's neat to see, as you were talking about earlier, it's like, oh, visualists started interacting more with narrative. It's also like, oh, the artists also are getting like, they are also getting to do a lot of creative expression and interpretation in the world. I think that's a cool, like, art is this, especially like these cards are like there's many different artists all working together to make a product that's like, products make a piece of art that is kind of an interesting sum of a bunch of different points. So, or contributions.
And
so I think that's
if you allow me to toot my own horn very briefly, I'm very proud of a project that we completed last year. That was a project taken on by Visual and Narrative and EDI, which was the setting guide project. So this is something now that we send to artists that gives kind of the look and feel of the world of Netrunner. So this was, a multi-team operation, but this was the first set wherever all artists had access to the setting guide. So we're feeling like it helped with the visual cohesion for the set. And it also allows us to be less, like in general, whenever we're writing art briefs, we try not to be very prescriptive about it. Most you don't want to do that if you don't allow an artist room to be able to express themselves, then that usually shows up in the work somehow. Maybe it'll take longer for them to do because it's like it's you're just doing exactly whatever somebody said and not having an outlet for creativity. Maybe it just doesn't fit their style as much. So having the setting guide and that base understanding of what the world is let us move away from that even more in our art briefs. So unless there was something that we were specifically saying like noir, then we did give the artists a lot of freedom to be able to express themselves. And then there's cool things like this that come out of it. Polar Engine was one of our, they are a team of artists that are based in Indonesia. And we were really happy to be able to collaborate with them again on the set. This artist is not one that we had worked with before from them, but we think that they did a great job with this. And I was also really happy just to have this showing this mode of transportation on a card. It was something we had tried to do in Elevation actually, and not quite, we hadn't been able to find a place for it. So I'm happy that we had transportation come up here on the moon, but also you can just see the very drastic differences between the kinds of transportation. For Elevation, if you look at the concept art for one of the poorer districts, you can see like the subway station that they have that people are getting onto, and it's very different from this one, which is for our very wealthy individuals on the moon, looking to get from Méliès to another point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that is. I do actually, as someone who I've been like switching modes of transit a lot with a new job lately, and it is, I don't know, it's like the transit tells you a lot about a place, I think, and it's kind of neat to see that. Like it also helps a place feel more real in a fictional place when you're like, oh, this is how a person actually moves around. So it's nice to see that being brought together in Netrunner a little bit more. So.
Yeah, realistically, not everybody would have a hopper.
Yes. I guess I also wanted to ask a little bit, I think before the season started, you said you had done some focused work on Jinteki, but I didn't actually get the chance to ask if you had done Méliès U or was involved in that, in the art briefs for that part of the set.
Oh, yes, I wrote all of the briefs for Méliès, yes.
Yeah.
For the university.
So I guess, it's... I think one of the neat things about all the different sides is that they're trying to evoke both the color palette and like feeling of these places. I guess kind of like, was that how different was the like setup of writing briefs for Méliès U compared to a typical card, or was it kind of similar but it had some fun new quirks because it was the same thing a couple times?
Yeah, it was very different than even doing like a flip ID, like a regular flip ID, that only has the two sides. Because normally, whenever we do a flip identity, take Dewey, for example. Dewey is a good example of this. You have her front side is her and her son, and then the reverse side is the same position, but it's with Wayang puppeteering instead in NetSpace. And so something like that is a lot more straightforward to write a brief for. And we always, whenever we're doing these flip pieces, we always send it to the same artist to say, okay, like this, but now the other way, and like change it this way. So for Méliès U, it was quite a different process because it wasn't just a mirror or a slightly different interpretation of the front side of the university. Since there were 3 different flip sides, you couldn't do something like that. And because they mechanically had to line up with different places on the board, we wanted them to be distinguishable from each other on multiple levels. And so in the art briefs, it was mentioned about having the strong color palette association. I think folks have already noticed that it is the same color palette association that is associated with the mark cards that were included whenever Sable was released. And so it's blue for HQ, green for R&D, and red for archives. But then it was also like having something like this with all of the different sides gave you more of an opportunity for visual storytelling, which is such an so exciting to be able to do. And it all be technically on one card. Normally, whenever you're doing visual storytelling for a particular character or a location, it has to be spread out more. And then all of those pieces won't necessarily go in the same deck. And so you won't see that storytelling all at the same time. But with this one, it's all there. And so you get to know. And so we have the front side for all of them is showing, the main campus on the moon. We wanted to bring in some kind of impossible architectures, be like, what is something that you could only do on the moon, that you couldn't do on Earth. So we've got like these funky spheres that are over here. And you can see the ruins of the city that was on this in the background. And like
Oh,
the
that's
shining white tower that is the university, what everyone's aspiring to go to.
I think I missed in the fiction that there was like, oh yeah, there's like ruined cities back there, and this is the like next generation of corporations flexing their wealth and development. So that's cool. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, that was a really cool idea that I believe it was Aura's idea on the narrative team
Hmm.
came up with that. It's very evocative.
Yeah, very nice.
And then whenever you go to HQ, you're able to see in kind of the upper tiers of the tower. This is not only, for people that have potentially gone to the university, but they're tenured. They get like this
Hmm.
extremely nice office, all of this space, which, in space is a premium because of all of the resources that you have to use to have livable areas. A reminder of where they are with the tower again on the side, and then the blue tone makes it feel kind of relaxing. Like
Hmm.
you finish passing off the work to your grad students. They've got all of it. All you have to do is review their paper at the end, and you go up and you relax up here. It's nice.
Yeah, I do find this blue also a little bit sinister as well. So that's it's doing a little bit of double work there, I think. Um, and then you've got the
And
subsurface labs. Yeah.
yeah, so this is wherever it starts to get more sinister. So we have the face that the university is wants the public to see, but then there's the research that is actually going on that underground, wherever people can't see it. This piece, the brief was this one out of all of them was the one that changed the most from the
Mm.
brief to the actual art. Whenever I wrote the brief for this, I was way too ambitious at first. It's a common issue in brief writing. You try to put way too much in it. My previous job, I had worked in a startup incubator. We were renting lab space. I was like, oh, I know what goes in labs. Let's put in like this thing and this thing and this thing and like have all this equipment. And so like science nerds out there will be like, heck yeah, that's a real lab. And then we had to just get rid of all of it because it
Yeah, yeah.
didn't
It's
work.
it's
We had to make
visually
it
very
green.
busy. It's like, yeah, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. That's well,
It was too
one
much.
day, Suzanne, you'll get to do that card for me, and I will be very pleased as someone who's worked in a lot of science labs to see
The
my mass
scientists
spec.
out there, I was thinking about you.
Yeah,
We just didn't get there.
yeah. Instead, this I I'm sure there's many pieces like this. It reminds me a little bit of a picture a painting my wife has of like psychologists looking in on a dome of children that has that very observational scientist kind of vibe. I think something I also like about this is like I said, it shows up in the like all of the archives one as well. Like these, all three of them have very different. I don't know what the right term. I'm gonna say like blocking. So like they like where your eyes are drawn and where the space is busy or full and stuff like is different. And so it's like
Hmm.
even beyond the colors, there's this other layer of like immediate visual differentiation between the cards, which is very handy.
And I did want to clarify also, so these tubes are not tubes of blood. The person who is pushing it is not using it carefully, but he's the only one down here who's going to know if he died it down properly. Um, so
Yeah.
what these are the clone tube that we saw in the previous one
Yeah.
for R&D in the labs. This is one that has been decommissioned. So this is like a failed experiment, and they go in the vault. Something that we had given Kira as inspiration in this brief was actually at the end of Indiana Jones, whenever they're just
Oh yeah, yeah.
adding the
The Ark of the
relic to like
Covenant
all
or
of the
whatever.
boxes in the back. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, oh yeah, this will just become another part of government bureaucracy, and like, will anybody even know that this is back here kind of thing. So we were
Yeah.
going for that kind of vibe with this only.
I
It's the
definitely got that
plumes, and so
vibe.
it's
I did not
pretty
think that was a
significantly
giant vat of.
darker.
I did not think that was a vat of blood. I think I did get that, but I could also, as you say that, I'm like, oh yeah, I could see why people might think that for sure. I don't think we're quite at Jinteki as Eldritch Horror Blood Powered Corporation just yet. Maybe that
We
will be the
have
theme of a
not yet
different
gotten
set.
to Jinteki as vampires. Maybe
Yeah.
one day.
Yeah. Maybe when we do an Arkham crossover, we'll get
Right.
that set. But oh, very cool.
Which
Thank
has kind of already happened with Vic.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. Oh, that's not Vic. I would like remove Vic. That would be silly of me, but I think I did. Okay. Well, yeah. So I guess. I guess one other question, and this might be a simple no. I think I made some joke yesterday about like Let Them Dream having to clear a high bar, and then someone pointed out that it was in fact someone jumping over a high jump. That's just coincidence, right? That wasn't some like deep joke. But
Okay.
anyways.
Okay. So I want to remind you that Patrick is on the narrative team, and Patrick loves a joke. I can't remember if Patrick, if you're in the chat, I don't remember if it was you that named Let Them Dream, but I'm pretty sure it was you.
Oh, I guess just Let Them Dream and clearing a high bar is a nice little one-two
Yeah,
joke.
and no,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and the clearing the high bar part, yes, but there's a
Yes.
few punsters on the narrative team.
Yes. There's
so
there's definitely some puns that I think are waiting to be shown. So I'll look
Yes,
forward to those.
yes.
But I guess are there other cards cards that are out, or actually like I'm using the backdrop of a card that we don't know anything about but NSG has showed previously. Like, are there other
Yeah.
things that you want to like stand out to you as things you're like, oh, I'd love to say X about this piece that's out, kind of thing?
Well, I do want to shout out to all the folks who saw Coursera and thought, "Oh my God, we are getting a pirate anarch." I just want to say that I am thinking about you. I am sorry for if that felt like it was misleading. You are not getting a pirate anarch this set. There is no anarch ID.
But if you keep saying where's our, I will say, that if the NSG folks are in the community, if you keep calling for a pirate anarch, it could happen. You never know.
You never know. Maybe we'll cave and just be like, oh yes, we have to put in a pirate anarch.
Yeah.
But it's more like something that I would want folks to keep an eye out for in the set. Like, we know already that there are two main mechanical themes within the set, which are stealth credits and bad pub. And so just looking at how they express themselves differently across the different factions, because this is something that we think of whenever visual and narrative are collaborating. So, for example, how Corsair and Lampades look, like this is kind of the anarch interpretation of what stealth is doing. And then if you compare them to like Underdome Irregulars, it's a very different kind of vibe, The Anarch one has darker colors. They're dealing more with like pop cultural ideas of things that are outside of the law. And the criminal one is bringing in more of the noir component. And I was really happy, actually, in the article that Conrad mentioned the Maltese Falcon. That was because I know whenever this card was spoiled for Underdome Irregulars, I don't think everybody knew it was a bird, but they didn't know which bird. But that was a specific call out to a classic of noir cinema.
Yeah. No, that was I'm glad that Conrad caught that as well, because I definitely had not made that connection. But as soon as it was said, I was like, oh, of course. And it's a fun
The famous
little callback.
bird, the big red herring. Well, not red herring, but everybody's trying to get it. Red herring's not the right term. I can't think of the term.
Yes, I think sometimes they even just call. Yeah. Anyways, I want to call it the MacGuffin, but I feel like a slightly different thing. There's a lot of those like concepts that are anyway, a lot of those tropes. But yeah, no, that's a good point of this like, noir versus, pop culture inspired understandings. And I'll be interested to see. We haven't seen that much from Shaper yet. I'll be interested to see what kind of the visual language of Shaper will be. But obviously, I can't ask you about that because it's not revealed yet. Other than,
I do think, though, that people would be able to tell by looking at Hiram that it would be a very different vibe coming from Shaper. Yes. Even in comparison to these two other things whenever it comes to stealth.
Yeah.
And the same goes for Bad Pub. We've seen Vulture Fund and we've seen Nilo Agent. And those are, they're both working with Bad Pub in some way, but they are two very different takes on what, like how Bad Pub visually expresses itself.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. If this is a very NBN, like highly aesthetic style of things, and then you've got like a quintessential like Wayland mob boss style framing and setup here, or even Bond villain-esque. So yeah,
right,
very neat.
So we can't talk about that too much because we haven't gotten to community previews. So it's just something for folks to watch out for as they see more cards from the set.
Very cool. All right, I'm not going to ask you to pick a favorite. That seems mean of any type. So I think I'll just say, Suzanne, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for being a good sport about my ambush of you being a solo guest. I promise to either not do it again or give you much more heads up next time. One of the two. I'll figure out which. And thank you so much for coming on. This has been a ton of fun. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime anyone wants to talk about the visuals of Netrunner, I'm there for it.
Fantastic. Well, I'll make sure all the podcasts can have you on so that you could talk about visual stuff in an audio-only medium. The best way to talk about visuals.
Oh, right. The best place to do it.
All right. Well, thank you, Suzanne, so much. As tomorrow, it's going to be a safer podcast style thing. And then Friday, we will be starting 45 minutes earlier with Mike Card and then a couple of other stuff to allow Neon Static to have a chance. And then Saturday is also going to be an early start, but a much earlier start. And I'll talk about that some more tomorrow. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out. And I hope you continue to enjoy the rest of spoiler season. And have a good night.